Hello, welcome to the next session on social sciences. My name is Dominika Janus. I work in the Institute of German Philology at the University of Gdańsk, and I will chair this session. I want to introduce the first speaker, Anna Bury from the University of Gdańsk. The title of the presentation is The Second Life, a Gift or a Curse?
Okay, can everybody hear me because I prefer speaking without the microphone? Okay, so, okay, oh wait. Second from the bottom. Okay, so here, right? Okay. So as you can see, my presentation is about whether the second life is a gift or a curse. But before we jump into deciding whether it is like the first or the second thing, we need to kind of decide what the second life is. And in my understanding, the second life is spending a substantial amount of time, of free time, or maybe not really. Maybe some people are skipping work or school. But it is spending a substantial amount of time in the so-called virtual world. So, for example, social media like Facebook, which I guess almost all people here have, or Instagram, where we can post our photos, and other sites like Tumblr, Twitter, Snapchat, all of those social networks that we have contact with every day. The second group is creator platforms, so all those sites where you can post your works and watch works of other people. And basically, the first that comes to our mind is YouTube, and his, I would say, grandfather, MySpace, which is basically dead by now, but I decided to include it here anyways. And the third group is games, and I am more than sure that most of you have played at least one game in your entire life, like even if it was Snake on your old mobile phone. Not really? No. Okay, so almost all of you. But we have all of those multiplayer online games like League of Legends, where you have got your rank and you are judged by people on whether you have a high rank or a low rank, and also Counter-Strike, Global Offensive. There are, of course, many, many more. These are just like those basic examples, and apart from online multiplayer games, we have also single-player games, but I'm gonna get to that in a second. But the first thing that we want to discuss is why can it be a gift? And this is the question, why is it so appealing? What is so appealing in social networks that we are so drawn to them? First of all, we can create our image however we want. We can create the person that we want to be just by posting our photos or our posts. So we can spend hours on creating the perfect post that will make everyone think that you're more sophisticated in the real life than you actually, more sophisticated than you actually are in the real life. And on Instagram, you can retouch your photos, you can add filters to look more appealing to people. And when it comes to creator platforms like YouTube, even when you're vlogging, so you're technically showing your life to other people, you're still showing only 10 minutes of your entire day. So you can choose what to show to people, to your audience, and what to hide from them. And games. What is so appealing in games that we are drawn to them this much, that people are addicted to them? Well, first of all, the thing I mentioned, those multiplayer games where you compete with other people, and usually the higher your rank is, the better you feel. But also we have single-player games, and the thing that is crucial in here is the looks of the game. So in 2018 we have single-player games that are absolutely visually stunning. And with games like The Witcher 3, released by CD Projekt Red in 2015, we can still see that these are environments that we can stumble across when we are playing the game. And well, it is easier to just buy a game for $30 and go there just than to travel around the world and try to find a place like this. Or like, okay, so we've got a little bit of a trouble here. But basically, this is a palace with absolutely stunning architecture, and it is the sunset, and the sky is just vibrant orange color, but for some reason we can't see it here. And those beautiful areas that you can just travel around, because with open world games we don't really have to follow the quest line or the storyline of the game. We can just run around and enjoy the world. And this is probably the reason why people are more interested in the virtual world, because it's simply more beautiful than the real one. It's more vibrant, it's more vivid, and you're free to have your own vineyard and people doing, you know, cooking and cleaning for you for the whole day. But the second life can also be a curse, and you see here additional costs. And I don't mean here only the time you spend on the game, or the social network, or the creator platform. I also mean the money. Because we live in those times where you can buy almost everything. So you want to boost your Instagram posts, you just pay $4 and have it on the top of the page for a week or so. Or the same thing goes for Facebook pages, basically. And when it comes to those creator platforms like YouTube, you can buy yourself subscribers simply and get your golden button or whatever it is. And when it comes to okay, so we've got the paid subscriptions memberships. We've got YouTube Red, and it is additional. You don't really need it, but it is a certain improvement to the existing site. So you're free to do so and buy yourself YouTube Red. The second thing that is absolutely, in my opinion, killing all of those sites are microtransactions. So the things that should have been in the product from the start, but are somehow locked, or you just need simply pay to have the full experience. The third thing is additional paid content, usually in a form of downloadable content. So when it comes to games, these are usually side quests or hairstyles or outfits. So the thing that should have been in the game from the start, because you basically paid for it, but it's not really the case, because maybe the developers didn't manage to finish those quests before the release date of the game, and they put it afterwards and make you pay. And the fourth thing that is quite of a new invention in gaming, at least, are loot boxes. So loot box is a thing that you pay for, let's say, around, usually it's around $4 to $5, and you get from it 3 to 5 items usually, and they have a certain degree of rarity. So when you buy a loot box, you're basically gambling. And nowadays loot boxes are put into the games that are directed and aimed at kids. So they're teaching kids how to gamble. And now the question arises: how much is too much? So how much are people willing to pay to get the full experience? And I want to mention here the Battlefront 2 controversy, which is the game released in November of 2017 by Electronic Arts, which had microtransactions, loot boxes, and paid DLC, which is not really that outrageous thing, but it had it. And when you buy a fully released game, you at least are expecting to have all of the main characters in it, but that's not the case with the Battlefront 2. And it had a huge controversy over those loot boxes, and actually states like Washington banned those loot boxes, and people are not allowed to buy them anymore in game. And countries like Belgium in Europe, that have the anti-gambling policy, are actually banning those because they're illegal. So they're actually trying to prevent kids from learning how to gamble. And I've mentioned all of those features of those sites, games, and they all require money. And that drives me to the conclusion of my presentation, that in the past it used to be like that when you wanted to achieve your success, you needed to work hard, put your time into it, and also usually it was like that you needed to put your money into it. But with those tendencies that we can see, I feel like it will be easier to skip the working hard process and the time thing, just to end up with money. And in my opinion, money will be the only currency in the future, and because right now we have those two basic currencies, our time and our money. And in my opinion, time as a currency will completely disappear in the future, and this is exactly where the world is heading. Thank you.
Presentation. Do you have any questions? No questions or comments?
Because like everything that you said was in regard to pleasure, let's say, like Facebook, and I know that people make money, but most of the work of most of the people is happening somewhere else, in a way, like not on Facebook.
Yeah,
So how to connect?
What I try to mention here is the addiction to social media that is really present among mostly teenagers nowadays, and the fact that because people are actually starting to live more in the virtual world than in real one. Maybe it's not that visible here in Poland or like countries in Europe, but in the United States, people are valuing themselves more in the virtual world than in the real one. So they will pay to boost their posts and pictures.
More of a comment than a question. I have to disagree with what you said, that in the future we will be able to skip the process of hard work to gain success just because we have money. Maybe it will be possible in some areas, like if you want to become a photo model, maybe you can buy your success. But in life sciences, medical sciences, you cannot buy knowledge, you cannot buy the skills that you have in a lab. You can never buy the product of life sciences. So I disagree.
Okay, so these are only my predictions, and they are regarding to what I've talked about. So the social media and creator platforms and gaming, they're not relating to science in any way. So I hope that's clear now.
One more question. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Once again. The next speakers are Justyna Piątek, Małgorzata Łyczakowska and Natalia Głowacka from the University of Gdańsk with the presentation entitled Where Does Depression Lead the Humanity?
Okay, so we are pleased to welcome you all to our presentation. My name is Małgorzata, this is Justyna and Natalia, and we are American studies students from University of Gdańsk, and in our presentation we would like to discuss the problem of depression, which we find significant, current and noteworthy. especially due to the fact that for several years it has been an issue that concerns not only anonymous strangers but also our relatives, friends and communities we belong to. We're going to focus on depression side effect and its impact on everyday people's life. Afterwards, we'll describe current functioning mental health care in Poland in comparison to the United States of America. Finally, all of that made us question whether the issue of depression is up to the individual who suffers from the disease or it is our mutual responsibility. So, the World Health Organization says that depression affects people of all ages from all walks in life in all countries. It causes mental anguish and its impact on people's ability to carry out even the simplest everyday tasks, with sometimes devastating consequences for relationships with family, friends, and ability to earn a living. Now, one of the most telling symptoms of depression is a change in sleep patterns. The most common one is insomnia. People have to struggle with difficulty in getting adequate sleep and sometimes feel an increased need for sleep and experience excessive energy loss. And lack of sleep can cause some of the same symptoms as depression, and it is extreme tiredness, loss of energy, and basically difficulty concentrating or making decisions. And what is also the cause of depression is a tendency to gain or lose weight, which might also frustrating and may trigger severe impacts on people's ability, on people's thoughts and minds, basically. It leads to decreasing self-esteem and feelings of hopelessness. Depression touches upon career, but personal life as well. Decreased energy, fatigue almost every day, and it results in lower efficiency at work, so may also lead to redundancies. Then relationships, family, the closest are hurt. This is like a vicious circle. Unless it is treated, it will never come to the end. Though at its worst, it can even take away someone's life. In the United States of America, depression is the cause of over 2/3 of reported suicides and is a 10th leading cause of death. And according to the National Institute of Mental Health, more than 90% of people who die from suicide have depression and other mental diseases. It is reported that in Poland in 2016, a total number of people dying from suicide stands at about 5,500. And in comparison to the people dying in car accident, which was 3,000 people, the number of people dying from suicide is overwhelming and unfortunately grows each year.
So now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to focus on our country, Poland, and its mental health system that works here. It has evolved since the beginning of 70s, from large hospitals to more community-based care. It was found that the changes were rather slow due to the financial shortages and lack of clear demand of users. Polish total spendings for psychiatry have not raised significantly, unfortunately, for over 10 years, even though the transformation of mental health care in Poland has been ongoing for over a dozen years. The system of mental health still suffers from a number of serious structural and functional defects, which are, for example, uneven distribution of psychiatric facilities, low standards of those facilities, and, for example, a long distance between the majority of large hospitals and patients' place of residence. Also insufficient competence in psychiatry and uneven quality of psychiatric procedures and therapy, and also a lot largely depends on patients' budget, which leads me to our Polish National Health Fund, NFZ. This is a fact that despite it being free of charge, waiting for the appointment may vary between 2 months and even half a year, and waiting for permanent, consistent therapy can reach up to 1 or even 2 years, which is simply unacceptable when it comes to people who suffer from depression and, for example, they have suicidal thoughts or proclivities. And now the question arises, is the mental health in Poland available, accessible for everyone? Yes, if they can afford it or wait long enough for their turn, but sadly no if their mental state is in a hopeless condition or they eventually decide to give up halfway through. Consequently, the diseased ones really often decide to take a shortcut. Between 2008 and 2016, there has been a 30% growth of antidepressant sales in Poland because it's simply easier to get a prescription than the access to benefits or provisions. Meanwhile, as Professor Piotr Gałecki said, medication and psychotherapy should be practiced depending on individual needs, not replacing psychotherapy.
And as future American studies scholars, we would like to acquaint you with the current situation of American people suffering from mental disorders. And to begin with, a survey from 2014 estimated that the total spending for mental health care alone would rise by about $34 billion until 2014, and it would amount about $213 billion. And when it comes to the access to mental health care, the easiest one provides states like Vermont, Massachusetts and Maine, while the hardest is in Mississippi, Nevada and Arizona. And as estimated, the biggest decrease between 2011 and 2014 in access to mental health care was in New Mexico and California. The biggest increase, however, was observed in Nebraska and North Dakota. And moving on, you probably all know that not everyone living in the United States has health insurance. And the biggest percent of those people is in South Carolina, Tennessee and Nevada, while the lowest is in Massachusetts, District of Columbia and Vermont, and it's 17% on the national level. And unfortunately, the insurance still does not always mean access to treatment and professional help. As for 2016, about 56.5% of insured adults still did not receive any kind of treatment. And reasons for that could be either individual or systemic, but it's also the reason that not everyone understands that what they are experiencing is in fact mental disorder, and about 84% of American people do not consider their problems as psychiatric ones. And the highest percentage of untreated adults with mental problems is in Florida, Hawaii, and Nevada, while the lowest percentage is in Vermont, Iowa, and Maine, but it's still about 45% of the population.
So we thought about some better solutions that we can introduce to this whole issue that we're talking about today, and what are the better solutions around the world, maybe. So first of all, we thought about the institutionalization of mental health care, but for it to work, there must be not just the closing of hospitals, but the opening of the whole society. And patients had not only to be discharged from closed units, but also embraced by open communities. And this this does not happen with a lot of preparation, hard work, and organization. But as we can find it in a real-life example, it is possible. The city of Trieste, Italian Trieste, is our best example, a role model for the rest of the world, as so-called the best place to be mentally ill. For over 35 years, the town with 230,000 inhabitants has had not any kind of specialized mental hospitals, and the asylum was replaced by 40 different structures with different roles and tasks. However, we thought, how would this work in the USA or Poland that we are describing today? The theory behind the institutionalization was great, but its implementation in the US turned out to be an utter disaster, because the money saved from closing hospitals was supposed to be spent on opening community-based treatment services and providing decent community housing, but instead it was diverted to tax relief or to support other programs. So still the problem of neglecting the issue comes back. Poland, on the other hand, has never decided to deinstitutionalize the healthcare, and we can just ask ourselves if it will really work out today.
So, to summarize, mental health is the key to our overall health, and as a society we should now be more aware than ever that staying mentally fit is just as important as maintaining our physical health, because we think that right now we are stuck in like psychiatric dark age, and yet overall the mental healthcare field has been neglected, and we think that it is simply unacceptable. And answering the question that we asked ourselves at the beginning of the presentation, the issue of depression is in fact our mutual and social responsibility, and the costs involved in maintaining the resources needed to support an adequate system are actually insignificant when compared to the benefits that could be returned to us in our better quality of life, safety, and productivity. So thank you.
Very interesting presentation. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for a really interesting talk. I saw that in the statistics you showed that the access to psychiatric healthcare and the number of untreated adults. Was there any correlation that you observed? Because only one state was common. Vermont, I think, was common in the lowest rates of undiagnosed things.
I mean, all of this research was done in 2017, and I don't really understand what you mean. It's like.
No, was there any correlation between the number of the list of states?
Yes. Yeah, I didn't want to show you all of the 50 states. I just chose the highest and the lowest. But there was the whole list of.
And one more question.
Yeah.
The American healthcare system is not really renowned for being great. So is it good to base the Polish system on the American system? Maybe there are some other success stories. Maybe Japan.
Maybe, but as we said, we are from the American studies, so we were more interested in to compare US to our country. That's why we chose only United States, but of course, probably somewhere else there is a better health system.
And I don't think it's safe to say that the implementation of Poland's healthcare system would work out in America, because it's just simply impossible to say. But yeah, I think that the main problem is still just neglecting it.
Yeah.
And even though we have specialists, even though we have a lot of people who are putting a lot of effort and their whole time to really treat other people, the whole system doesn't really,
actually.
Yeah. But will it work out?
Any more questions or comments? Thank you
There's
very
one
much.
question there.
So I was wondering if you could describe in more details about this Trieste mental health care organization.
For example, conditions or what can they offer to their patients?
So when it comes to the more detail, the whole city is really unique in its whole cooperative system because it's really focused on the society, that the society is helping, the whole town is helping those who are diseased and not only specialists. And when I was doing my research, there was the information that there are 4 communities, mental health centers, not hospitals, but centers, and they provide patients with 6 to 8 beds. So, for example, if you have some severe mental health condition or not really good, I would say, situation at your home, you can easily just go there and spend the amount of time you would like to. Also, they're really focusing on the clients, patients' everyday life activities. So it's not just going to the therapy and saying your issues, your problems, your mental health state, but they're trying to convince them to take part in a lot of extra activities, for example, art, or even offering a job or something, and I think it works really well there.
Yeah, and when it comes to the financing of the whole communities, it's still governmental money, but they just decided to close these psychiatric hospitals, and all of the funds are going to support these mental centers, and there are also special grants for workers there. So, yeah, and like my friend said, even if the patients are able to, they can start a part-time job just to take their minds off the problems and focus on doing anything actually.
Thank you very much once again. Now we are going to listen to the presentation of Kinga Ersepki from the University of Gdańsk on the gender benders.
Hello everyone, my name is Kinga Ersepki and I'm a postgraduate student of American Studies at the University of Gdańsk and of film in the Polish Academy of Sciences in Warsaw. And one of my main research interests are transgender spectrum identities. And so today I'm going to talk about gender non-binary identity and its representation in American television. But for starters, there are 3 components to a person's gender. There is the biological sex, meaning the characteristics of a person's sex, like genitals. There is gender identity, meaning a person's own perception of their own gender, which I'm going to come back in a second. And gender expression, meaning how a person presents the gender in relation to what society deems as masculine or feminine. And there are 3 types of gender identity. Cisgender, which describes a person whose gender identity corresponds to their biological sex. Transgender, which is now used primarily to describe people whose gender identity is opposite to their birth sex. And finally, non-binary, meaning a person's gender identity does not fit the binary division. They do not identify exclusively with either male or female gender. And this is the definition once again, and the colors of the flag. And I just have to emphasize that gender non-binary identity is not a style, it's not a look, it's not synonymous with intersex. These are 2 different concepts. It's not a state of confusion, it's not a mental illness, and it's not a medical diagnosis. There are no criteria you have to check off to be considered as gender non-binary, but it is a gender identity as valid as the other 2. And the reason why this topic is becoming more prominent nowadays is because the millennials, the people who are now in their 20s and 30s, have been considered to be the most gender fluid generation today. The generation that cares the least about gender roles, gender expectations. And several polls show that, including massive millennial polls, show that the majority of millennials agree that gender is a spectrum rather than a binary system. Another one showed that 12% of millennials identify as gender non-binary. And another study of the Generation Z, so the post-millennials, the now 13-year-olds to 20-year-olds, Also, in a great majority, agree that gender doesn't define a person as it used to, and that they do know someone who identifies as non-binary. And even though this topic was not really addressed in the mainstream, those people have found themselves. And the community really grew online because, these are the people from the very tech-savvy generations. But still, even though the presence online is strong, there is no representation in the mainstream media, in mainstream films, in mainstream television, and such representation matters, especially in the case of such minorities, and it's connected to two phenomena. First is symbolic annihilation, meaning this is the perception that if a group is not represented in the fictional world or in pop culture, it means they're insignificant. So I haven't seen it on TV, so it doesn't matter. And the other one is perspective taking, which is a great tool to develop empathy, which is literally imagining an event from a perspective of a person who's different from us. But that is difficult because we usually don't have the facts, the basic knowledge of what the life experience of such person is. And it's understandable that a cisgender person might find it difficult to really empathize or understand a gender non-binary person. And representation in the mainstream media sort of addresses both of these issues. Because for one, it solidifies the presence of minorities within the general social and cultural sphere. And the second one, it provides the audience with a character who is an example of such group. But unfortunately, until 2017, there was no such example for this identity. But in 2017, a Wall Street drama, Billions, in its second season, introduced the first gender non-binary character of Taylor Mason. In the first episode, their gender was not addressed at all, but in the second one, they made an introduction and said, "I'm Taylor, and my pronouns are they, theirs, and them." And the reaction of their boss was, "Okay." And this is huge. This is really huge. Many gender non-binary people choose not to use a gendered pronoun, so they do not wish to be addressed as he or she, but ask to be addressed with a gender-neutral pronoun, such as they. But obviously, not everyone is as open-minded, and there was a huge backlash because people like to argue that this is grammatically incorrect, which is not true. First of all, in English, there is already a pronoun that's both singular and plural. You. You are, but you are. And second of all, if we don't know a gender of a person, it's perfectly correct to say, "Oh, look, someone left their umbrella." So it's already in use for centuries. And the fact that there is no questioning, there is no mocking, there is no ridiculing. Okay, just make me some money, I don't care. This doesn't define your value. And other main characters also respect the pronoun or correct the characters who misgender the character. And I'm happy to say that this was not the only character representing the identity. In a very short-lived series, Here and Now, there was another character introduced, Navid, and the series was not the best, and understandably it was cancelled. But I think that this character should be remembered as one of the strongest points of the series, because it highlights an incredible issue in terms of both race and gender. First of all, the character is very comfortable with his, and he uses the pronoun his, with his gender identity, but doesn't feel safe to express it at school because he considers it unsafe, because he's a Muslim, so he's already more targeted to bullying. And second of all, many people in our society find males, biological males, who express in a more feminine matter just unacceptable. Taylor, presenting rather masculine, that's fine. But Navid, wearing makeup, wearing a hijab, many would find it a reason to torment such a person. And in July, there's going to premiere another series featuring a gender non-binary character. It will be a reboot and remake of the cult classic Heathers, starring Winona Ryder. And for now, we only have the trailer. And the trailer caused a lot of controversy for different reasons. And I think we should wait with the final assessment until it premieres. But what we can deduce now is that the gender non-binary character is going to rock some pretty fierce outfit. You can see that he wears clothing that combine both the masculine and the feminine, and I'm all here for it, because the way we perceive clothing and fashion, especially men's fashion, that's just a convention, and it seems that there is going to be a mainstream example that will completely subvert this perception. So here are our 3 representatives, and here is the theme of our conference, where it is heading. In terms of non-binary visibility, it's heading somewhere. And it's huge because 4 years ago, 5 years ago, it was not possible, and 2017 was the breakthrough year. But it's not only about the visibility of this particular group. The present recognition of other gender identities promotes the education on the topic of gender, which affects all of us, regardless of our identity. And I'm going to finish my presentation in the most corny way possible, because I will use a quote, but it's a good one, and it's by James Baldwin, who said that to be androgynous, the Webster Dictionary informs us, is to present both feminine and masculine traits. So aren't we all androgynous? Aren't we all born from a woman and a man? And so always and forever contain a part of both? Thank you.
Are there any questions?
You showed some statistics, like 70% of the millennials and
Yes.
then the Generation Z and so forth. So my question, or rather observation, is I would bet that those studies were made in the so-called Western world.
In the States, I'm again, like the friends, a student of American studies, so that's my focus, yes.
And what would you expect in the rest of the world? The results would probably vary, and my question would be why?
First of
I
all,
think I know the answer, but
first of all, it's difficult to measure the identities because the awareness is still spreading and the acceptance is still developing. So the studies each year show a greater number because more people learn about it and more people come out. So that's one reason. And the second one, I don't think that this particular topic is only exclusive to the Western world, because we have the perception of third gender in India, in Thailand. Among Native Americans, there is a concept of a two-spirit person. So I think we have to wait a bit more to really assess it, because there is no possibility to do it right now. But there is a study, again an American study, that showed that there is about a 1% right now of people in the States identifying as transgender, meaning either transgender transitioning or non-binary.
okay. Well, it would be interesting to see the results from, I mean, like the
I'll get back to you in 10 years.
Results. Thank you.
What is your take on the whole Jordan Peterson thing that is that went about the gender identity and the pronouns? There was a law passed in the, let's say, region of Ontario that mandated people to respect the pronouns that people choose for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about its conflict with freedom of speech and right to opinion?
I mean, there is a freedom of speech and there is, human decency, just common decency. If you had a friend whose name was Sigourney and she'd ask you to address to her as Betty because she doesn't feel comfortable with her name, there would be no question, right? And now people prefer to choose one pronoun, and this is something new for many of us. So we immediately sort of discourage it. But again, I think this is a topic of perception, of acceptance. Not all of those representatives that I showed are perfect. These are not perfect representations. They're simplified, but they are because you need to sort of ease the audience into the topic. And I think the same with the pronouns. It will take time for people to become comfortable with it. And it's not easy to switch. If you know a person who was a she for 20 years, and suddenly she asks, please, I'm a they. Thank you.
Kinga Wasilewska and Zofia Falkowska from the University of Gdańsk with jobs of the future.
You might be wondering why we showed you this video. With the world moving forward, it seems like this scenario is the only one that is true. But is it?
My name is Zofia Falkowska.
And my name is Kinga Wasilewska, and we are the first year students from the University of Gdańsk.
And today we're going to tell you a little bit more about the future of our jobs.
And if you keep listening, you will not only know where the world is heading,
But also how you can make yourself valuable for the job market that's yet to come. To understand the future of our jobs, it is important to look at the causes of job extinction. According to William Hallel and Thomas Frey, the big influence on our life will have the automatization of our lives. The usage of robots, artificial intelligence, and new devices will become part of our ordinary life, such as drones, driverless cars, 3D printers, big data, and mass energy storage. They will impact every aspect of our lives, and it is predicted that these changes can be applied in less than 15 years.
when talking about the future job market, we cannot forget about the When talking about the future of jobs, we cannot forget about the future job market. According to Jacques Bougin's and Mariano Bernandez's works, the characteristics of the future job market include
E-performance instead of human performance. Work collaboration, business transactions, and human interactions will all be moved to internet. And this also applies to communication, information, and education.
extensive usage of mobile applications. Mobile applications make it easier for students, teachers, workers, and customers to communicate and work with each other.
Project-based work instead of well-defined occupations. Instead of working in one particular job, we will rather focus on smaller projects for various institutions or businesses. It has already been applied in media and IT. However, it is bound to spread to other occupations.
Independent work instead of salaried jobs. More people will work from home rather than have a traditional 9-to-5 job. It becomes much easier with the emergence of new technologies and digitization.
Academic results and titles will not be a determinant of our skills and talents. Nowadays, if one wants to apply for a good job, he or she should have a degree which shows potential employer his or her abilities and accomplishments. In future, creativeness, initiative, and former accomplishments will be more valuable than academic titles.
Communities instead of unions. Due to the development of social media, in the future, work employees will be able to unite in online work communities rather than traditional unions. These communities will allow them to get in touch with their customers, employers, and one another, seek for new job opportunities, or make use of various services.
By now you may be wondering, what jobs are at risk? Conforming to Thomas Frey, all kinds of jobs that require manual work will be replaced by robots. And these jobs include drivers, miners, home construction workers, and plant operators. Also, the jobs that require large knowledge in a specific field will include journalists, fitness coaches, logisticians, financial services workers, and translators.
Hall, Davies, and Colbert also state that despite great automatization of jobs, there is still a great number of manual professions that are not easy to automate. They involve either direct contact with the customer or with his or her immediate surroundings. In more economically developed countries, manual workers of this kind make 19% of all workers, and there is a great probability that the number will not change.
As I have mentioned before, there is an enormous amount of jobs which are at risk. However, there's also a list which includes jobs that are going to be transformed rather than eliminated. And these jobs require compassion, knowledge, and imagination to let us see beyond what's given. And according to William Hallel, these jobs include teachers, lawyers, doctors, artists, mechanics, and salespeople.
What are the jobs of the future then? As you can see on the screen, majority of these jobs are connected to IT or widely understood managing. If one is interested in computer science, in the next 15 years, he or she will be able to find employment as a database administrator, VR editor, or machine learning engineer. However, if one is more of a humanist, they may consider being a tourist worker, a diplomat, or an industrial psychologist. Opportunities are unlimited.
To have a bigger chance of succeeding, one may consider finishing college with degrees such as from IT, business, architecture, marketing, diplomacy, and computer graphics. As we have mentioned previously, the future of our jobs will include the big impact of automatization, and this is why these college fields will probably turn out to be the most beneficial.
And here comes the topic which you have been waiting for.
How to break through the future job market.
This list includes, was prepared by Holiday A. Durham and Ann Y. McDermott, as you can see. And the first thing is to be real. There's nothing more important than being authentic and building a trust with your future employer.
Secondly, be informed. Know all the facts about the company which you will be working for, and always be prepared for your tasks.
Thirdly, develop a network of colleagues. The more colleagues you have, the greater opportunities await you.
Moreover, plan. Plan your option B and always be prepared.
Be persistent. Even if you fail, it doesn't mean the game is over.
Be flexible. Be ready for new challenges and don't fear changes.
Think ahead. It's better to be prepared for unexpected situations.
Be open to change. Changes are inevitable and they will only let you grow.
Enjoy what you do and be happy doing it. Otherwise, your job won't make any sense.
Lastly, seek work and life balance. Work is not everything, and you need to find time to grow and seek new adventures. And these pieces of advice can be implied nowadays as well. They're as simple as they sound, they are universal at any time.
At the beginning of our presentation, we showed you a video and asked if this is what you think our future will look like.
And so we ask you again, with the world moving forward, it seems like the scenario of fully automated world is the only one that is true. But is it? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or comments?
Thank you for your presentation. I would like to ask about your opinion, because you also mentioned the job of a teacher, how it will develop in the future, and how machines or the whole automatization process will replace them. I mean, I agree with that, but partly, so I would like to just hear your opinion, how you think it will look like. And I'm not talking about online teaching, because and online learning, but the whole automatization process, if you can describe it more in detail.
As far as I'm concerned, being a teacher is pretty specific because it involves direct contact with your students, and I think that we learn better if someone gives us the information and can explain it, because some people need few ways of explanation to finally understand the problem, and I don't think that machine would be good at that. And while we were preparing this presentation, in one of those articles we read that people will always prefer being served by another human. So I guess it can also be applied to teaching.
I have 2 comments. First, I was shocked and amazed to learn that the fitness coaches will disappear from the market.
Yeah.
Where are we heading? and could you go one slide back?
Of course.
Yeah, my first thought was Decalogue, the 10 Commandments, except in the sort of an alter version. But if you read through them, and if you have any information about how the Polish education changed in 2016, that's basically we're so much away from these 10 commitments. It's completely, there's no overlap even in one point. Be informed, be real, flexible, think ahead. That's not what you get in Polish education these days. So that's my comment. Sorry about that.
But I feel that we can easily learn it by ourselves. It probably would be easier at school, but if we can't get the right education, like social education like this, we can always work on ourselves. So I don't think that's really a problem in Poland, and I guess people in my age are beginning to be more like open and real, because we take our role models from the US, for instance, or other countries where these values are used on everyday basis.
Well, it's actually connected to the previous presentation where there was a generation gaps, and we as a generation Y and Z are pretty different, and pretty much more convenient is to us to attach these 10 rules in our life. But I got one question: how distant in the future it would be? Because there are actually two ways. Because other discussed way to go is a universal basic income. I don't know if anyone is familiar with this, but it's the idea that with automatization of everything and the fact that and if singularity will come to existence, which means that codes would be better than humans at basically everything, wouldn't it be easier to pay everyone at first without works, because since they would be better in everything than us, then what's the point to do it? And furthermore, I know it might be strange for older generations because they have more values, and we can see statistics that we are having less values, we don't care so much about things, and we generally have everything easier, so we would be more adjusted to it. So my question is, do you see this way as that people will actually have to work, or will they want to work? Do they will have to, like we now have to, or will it be a choice?
I mean, I think I have stumbled upon an article about what you said about this universal income, but I think that human beings they get bored after a while. So without work, our lives may not have sense, because we need to do something, anything, and it's hard to predict actually. And I can also remember that in one of those articles there were two ways of the development of the future of jobs. One was positive, where people would be able to get employment, and the other one was probably similar to what you said, like this universal income, and that there won't be any need to work.
And that was as a bad way, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So two things. One thing is that you said that degree is important for our employers. Well, I think it's not true, because nowadays there are many companies that look more for experience, and a lot of my friends didn't go to study, didn't study at all in jobs that they are now doing, and I think only the companies that are paid by government are looking for a degree, which is quite stupid, because it doesn't mean that somebody is skilled in something. And the second thing is, you said that salesman is a job that you think that those scientists think are not endangered. Well, in McDonald's, for example, there are those cement vending machines or stuff like that, so I also disagree with that statement. So, and what's your opinion? Like, how salesmen are important for people? Like, when you can buy on internet, almost everything.
I know, but I think that to some people, the experience of shopping and shopping in general may be a pleasure, a way to spend free time. And as I said before, most people would rather be served by a person rather than a human. So I think that at least some salesmen may preserve, but it depends on the type of shop. But to the first thing you said, I think that can you repeat the first question?
About the degree.
Yeah, okay. So I think that this example shows that it already has started to begin, that we don't really need a degree to have a really good job, and that employers value our experience and our other skills, not the educational one. So I guess it has already started.
Time is already up, so we can continue our conversation in the coffee break. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you.
The next speaker, Kinga Wodzińska, failed to show up, so the last speakers are Zuzanna Czubacka, Anita Pogorzelska, and Marta Kot from the University of Gdańsk. Okay. With the presentation, The Complexity of Racial Issues Based on Implicit Bias and Social Justice Warriors.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. My name is Marta Kot, and I'm here with Zuzanna Czubacka and Anita Pogorzelska. And today we would like to talk about the phenomena which are very important for us as American Studies students. To begin with, we would like you to imagine something. And so try to imagine entering a coffee shop and asking for the permission to use the restroom. Pretty normal thing. And the waiter or the cashier, whoever you asked, is showing signs of reluctance and tells you that the restroom is available for customers only, so you're taking a seat in the cafe. And suddenly, the manager approaches you and asks you to leave the premises. You refuse and respond that you're waiting for your acquaintance. But then, you find out that the manager called the police, and you're soon being escorted out. And the question arises, why were legal steps taken? Unfortunately, the answer is skin color. The situation I just described happened this year in Starbucks in Philadelphia, and it is, for us, it is really strange because with the world being increasingly more conscious about racial issues, how is it possible for such situations to appear? Unfortunately, this phenomenon which is kind of responsible for that, is implicit bias. And it is vital to important what implicit bias is. So implicit bias refers to unconscious prejudices and stereotypes we have towards other people. And according to the Perception Institute, it is mostly seen in studies which show that white people are bound to connect criminality with black people while being completely unaware of it. And as I mentioned, implicit bias occurs in everyday life, such as situation in the coffee shop in Starbucks. It appears, it is mostly visible in the case of American society, and the most visible example of it is black motorists. And the Stanford Open Policing Project conducted a research concerning traffic stops in not all of the states, but some of the states of the USA. And it came out not only are black motorists stopped more frequently, but they are searched on the basis of less evidence than white drivers as well. And here you have data from 2015. And on the next slide, here we are with searches for white and black Americans. The numbers this previous year, I think, decreased a little bit, but it's not much of a change.
Okay, so keeping all of these aspects in mind, we would like to talk about another problem, which is social justice warriors. The term is dating back to the 20th century, and at first it was not considered pejorative. Only recently did the social justice warriors put their emotions above facts, and they regarded every opposite point of view as discrimination, and thus they are trying to fix the world. They take political correctness to the extreme, which is not always good or helpful. They try to figuratively fight and protect minorities, and while those minorities they are protecting, do not usually agree with them at all, even though social justice warriors promote very progressive views such as civil rights, feminism, multiculturalism. They do not involve facts in their reasoning. Also, we wanted to make a clear distinction between social activists and social justice warriors, because these terms describe two completely different groups of people. While social activists are doing their best to improve lives of those who need it, and social justice warriors will prosecute people who do not need such help to such extent that they are making them feel about themselves because of things they do not have control over. What is more, social justice warriors often think that it is acceptable to take immoral actions because according to them the ends justify the means, and they are trying to silence different opinions since they perceive themselves as proper people to do it. And we have example of person who might be considered a social justice warrior, and there is a quote from Martin Luther King, and comments saying that don't quote Martin Luther King if you're white, because he created his speech for his African American brothers.
Okay. Now that you are familiar with what implicit bias and social justice warriors are, it is time to try and answer the question where the world is heading. When it comes to implicit bias, we believe that there is no way to completely eliminate it at this point of our lives, because probably most of you didn't even know what it is up to this point. We didn't even know before we started this presentation, and when you're not aware of something, you don't know how to change it. And the way to work on it is to focus on young generations and educate them in this field in hope of maybe, but we're not completely sure, eliminating it completely. But just because we can't eliminate it doesn't mean we shouldn't do anything about it now. And that's why after the Starbucks incident, some city leaders decided to suggest training for workers, which is a huge step towards spreading awareness regarding this problem. And taking everything into account, it seems like implicit bias is something we don't control, while social justice warriors control too much. And those two things seem to exclude themselves. So how is it possible for a phenomenon like social justice warriors to overshadow a given psychological trait that is so hard to control? And we believe it's because social justice warriors tend to blame others, play the victim, and deny scientific facts. They deflect what anyone says to them, or they try to transform it in such a way that will always be in favor of a minority, which is also not good. And it can be understood as a sort of reverse implicit bias, where a minority is always the victim. No matter what statement a social justice warrior could be presented with, it will always be offensive to someone. So it just results in spreading more hate, actually, and it's not helpful at all. So in our opinion, the world could go either way. It could become too sensitive to the extreme, to the point where it's just absurd, especially taking in consideration the role that the internet plays today and how gullible young people can be. Or the whole process of racial acceptance will backfire when more and more people realize how many human beings that don't know what they're doing or don't know what they're talking about are starting to emerge. In result, they just enrage actual people who fight for racial rights and social rights in general. So the whole thing will just result in more hate and people turning against each other even more than before, which might be surprising. So that would be all. Thank you.
Questions to our speakers?
A comment?
Okay.
I just want to tell you that, social justice warriors and blaming them, it's a muddy topic because other people like to throw the term as a slur toward any kind of a person that is a social activist. So, it's a bit.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, especially regarding to your presentation, because it also concerns gender. But social justice warriors just tend to victimize those people, and those people don't. I feel like they don't always need to be victimized because they're strong enough to stand out and say, I'm this way. And they don't need to be protected with words that will just create more hate, and they will just confuse even more people, and it will just reverse the process. Instead of accepting people who stand out, it will just backfire, like we mentioned before.
So this is quite a difficult issue concerning that there is implicit bias also existing. So these issues are very unpredictable in a way, because we cannot really tell if implicit bias will stop existing somehow by educating younger generations. So it is really hard to.
No, I really enjoyed your talk, and I agree with you that too many people are unaware of their own biases. I'd like to speak up for the older generation here and say we are not beyond hope, that it is possible for us as well
Yes,
to
of
come
course.
And I don't want to say that the University of Reading is like a great university at all, but all members of staff at the university have to complete an online course
Yes.
on implicit bias, and it's a requirement. And our Vice Chancellor, I mean, Kinga was talking about binary gender earlier. I mean, again, at the university, there is huge support for the whole LGBT, community, and that comes from the top. That comes from the Vice Chancellor of our university. So I think universities are a great place for management as well,
Yes.
to take some responsibility to make sure that this is not left to younger generations, that all hope resides there. I think a great deal of hope resides there. But, we as the senior generation have got responsibilities as well. We need to use that wisely.
Yes, and I would really agree that university is a great place to spread awareness because even on our own example, we are American Studies students, and the way we talk about social issues is really causing many people to open their minds about them. So it's really informative, I would say. So yes, I would agree that that is a great place to spread awareness.
I hope.
Yes.
Any more questions or comments? It was the last presentation in this session, so I want to say thank you to all the speakers in this session and to the audience for your attending. Thank you very much.
One more before we start the 1 minute poster presentation session. I was reminded by my colleagues that I should tell you, please follow us. Sopot Naukowe and our activities, because we do quite a lot. This is our flagship every year, but we are pretty active during the entire year. So join, follow, come, share. We're open. Okay. We have what, half an hour? Plus minus half an hour shift, but in the first session after lunch we gain the time because we have to withdraw, so don't worry about that. Lunch will be served once this session finishes. Yeah. Okay, so who's the leader? You.
Okay, so it's already time to start the third session. It's 1 minute poster presentation. So to all authors, you have 1 minute to encourage, invite, and interest us to come to your poster in the poster presentation session. Thank you.
So the first presenter, Paulina Miśkiewicz.
Is there Marta Konik?
Hello everybody. Hello. Okay, now. My name is Paulina Niśkiewicz. I prepared the presentation, but I don't know where is it now, so I will I will tell you about my poster presentation. It's located on table 24, and my topic today is about high-resolution atmospheric modeling in two fjords. Porsanger and Hornsund. One of them is located in the northern Norway, and the second is located in the Svalbard archipelago. During this poster presentation, I would like to show you the comparison of simulations from weather research and forecasting model with observational data from meteorological station to check the accuracy of the model. So that's all. I invite you to my poster. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paulina. Next speaker, Olga Brocławik. Good morning, everyone. My name is Olga Brocławik. I have this presentation. To sum up, the reduced frequency and volume of inflow water from the North Sea in a few last year. Also, the increased organic matter respiration have caused deterioration of oxygen condition. Additionally, concentration of iron concentration of reactive iron in sediments decreased on the within long-term period of stagnation. So maybe it's not good well my English, but if you want more information about that, and I'm supposed to more stress, you can go and invite you to my poster 27. Sorry and thank you. Thank you very much. Next, Emilia Brzezicka. Is here Emilia Brzezicka? So, Agata Cieszyńska? Okay. Aleksandra Ciupał?
Hello everyone, my name is Aleksandra Cupiał and I am a PhD student at the University of Gdańsk working with the modeled wave data. And the most interesting results for my area of interest, which is currently Gulf of Gdańsk, are the following. That the maximum significant wave height reached over 8 meters in the analyzed period of 44 years. That for the maximum values of wave height for this whole period, 2 very heavy storms are responsible, and that both the number of storms and the value of significant wave height is increased in this period. And my poster is hidden behind the pillar right there, so if you are interested, I welcome you to it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next speaker, Aleksandra Dydecka.
Hello everyone, my name is Aleksandra Dydecka. The title of my presentation is the role of 61 and 60A open reading frames in the control of phage development. Enterohemorrhagic Escherichia coli are human pathogens. The main virulence factors of these bacteria are Shiga toxins encoded by genes located in genome of STX bacteriophages like phage lambda and Phi24B. I would like to point out the region between the exo and xis genes located in these bacteriophages, and I want to understanding the role of 61 and 60A open reading frames in the control of phage development. I observed that these elements changes the time of prophage induction and also influence on phages adsorption, survival of E. coli bacteria, lysogenization, and also lambdoid phage development. For more information, I invite to my poster number 35.
Arkadiusz Działoszewski. Okej. Daria Gagacka.
Hello everyone. On behalf of me and my colleagues from Nicolaus Copernicus University in Toruń, I would like to invite you to see two posters. One of them is devoted, two of them are devoted to socio-economic geography. And the first one is about Seoul's creative cities. And the second one is devoted to the changes in size structures in the cities of PRC. Should you have any questions, please don't hesitate and ask us, me and my colleagues, the stations number 16 and 17. Thank you very much.
Now, Daria Gagacka. Okay, thank you. Mirosław Bylon. Okay. So next, Joanna Gołębiewska.
So my name is Marta Jarosińska. I work with Asia, and the aim of our studies within the project on mycorrhizal fungi in acidic beech forests was to determine the diversity of ectomycorrhizal fungi communities. And our research was carried out in 2017 in Sopot forestry. And it consisted of 4 stages. It started with soil sampling, then root purification with morphotyping, then molecular analysis and DNA isolation, finishing with species identification. We successfully identified 22 taxa. Some of them has new localities in Poland, and 2 of them are new in Poland, like new species in Poland. We believe that those studies shows that even in economically managed forests, fungi communities are very diverse and so we believe that those studies shows that they are very diverse, and we think that further studies will show that it is oh Jesus. Yeah. Well, if you got interested, we will invite you to our poster at table 11, and I will tell you more then, because I was prepared, but well, the light is awful and stuff like that.
Michał Grabski.
Hello, my name is Michał Grabski, and the aim of this study is to assess the role of 3' to 5' exoribonuclease in stability of small, is it working? Small RNA sequences in Escherichia coli. And to conduct this investigation, we obtained 4 RNA sequences data libraries, 1 for wild-type Escherichia coli and 3 for each of major exoribonuclease deletion mutants. And that's it for me. If you want to know more and ask any questions, please see me at station number 36. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, Patrycja Buzanek. Okay, Damian Jaśniewicz.
So recently the noise produced by ship are more and more recognized as a sea pollutant and a threat for marine organisms living in the sea. Also this noise produced by human activity have different characteristics than noise that naturally is produced by environment. And also the generated noises level are much higher than organisms normally used to live with it. And this motivates us to create the methods for proper identification, classification and description of this noise, which support the efficient monitoring connected with good environmental status directive and predict the influence on marine organisms. Thank you. And for this, assistant number 21.
Agnieszka Karaś-Telesińska.
Hello everyone. I would like to invite you to my poster presentation where you will have a chance to learn something more about how emotions may or may not influence human cognitive processes. You are very welcome at the poster stand number 15. Thank you.
Magdalena Kosecka.
Hello, I'm Magdalena Kosecka from Gdańsk University, and I would like to invite you to my poster presentation about genetic diversity of Trebouxia photobionts in gradient of altitude in Bolivia. It's a part of my PhD study. This is results from a really small part of my study, and it's part of a bigger project about hidden diversity of sterile crosstus lichens from Bolivia.
Dawid Kościelniak.
Hello everyone, my name is Dawid Kościelniak and I'm a PhD student from the Department of Biology of the University of Gdańsk. I would like to invite you to visit my poster where I can tell you more about transcriptional slippage process, which is not very familiar probably for you, but I will try to do my best to explain for you all the processes that this process is present with during the expression of genes, and I will try to do my best to show you my field of work. Thank you.
Next speaker, Anna Kuczyńska.
Italis purpura is a subatlantic species. However, in the east part of Europe is occurring as a locally invasive plant. The aim of the research was to determine potential geographic distribution of Dictylis purpura in Europe by using the maximum entropy method. And a particular analysis indicate that main bioclimatic factors limiting occurrence of Dictylis purpura are temperature, seasonality, and annual precipitation. I would like to invite to visit my poster 9. Thank you.
Joanna Laskowska.
Hello everyone. My name is Joanna Laskowska. I'm from West Pomeranian University of Technology in Szczecin. And the title of my research is Screening and Characterization of Pseudomonas from Domestic Cattle. Pseudomonas are common opportunistic pathogens. They can cause acute infections in humans and animals, especially in immunodeficiency patients. In my research, the aim of my research was to isolate Pseudomonas strains from cattle, assess their drug resistance, and verify the correctness of used research methods. And sorry for my English, but all my life I learned French. And for more information, I invite you to posters 25. Thank you.
Marek Lubosi.
Yeah, guten Morgen. So my poster is, you can find it under number 13, but in the name you can see 14th protein coding gene in mitochondrial genome of Mytilus edulis muscles. So I work with muscles or clams, and this muscle have a possibility to code 14th mitochondrial protein gene, because normally mitochondrial genome in animals codes only 13 proteins. And you can come visit, look at my poster, and I will show you or not if the 14th protein exists.
Magdalena Ładziak.
Welcome everyone. My name is Magda Ładziak and I'm from University of Warsaw, from Department of Applied Microbiology. The title of my poster is The Role of Small RNAs in Listeria monocytogenes, in which I present general knowledge about 2 out of 3 main groups of small RNAs, cis-acting RNAs and trans-acting RNAs. I'm also presenting mechanism of their action and what they control in bacteria, for example, their metabolism, stress response, and virulence. And all examples that I'm presenting are in Listeria monocytogenes, that is dangerous pathogen that can cause listeriosis in humans and different animal species. Thank you for your attention, and if you want to know something more about small RNAs, I invite you to my poster. Thank you.
Natalia Łubowska.
Hello everyone. As bacterial biofilms are today very important in bacterial infections, I want to present you today sample preparation protocol for scanning electron microscopy. I found it interesting and useful to present this protocol because when I started looking for the protocol in literature, I found that some of the authors present the protocol with quite expensive reagents, and the protocol was not so simple, so I present the simplified protocol today, and I think I would like to invite you to my poster to see the results from this scanning electron microscopy. Thank you.
Michał Michalek.
Hello everyone, I'm Michał Michalak. I'm a PhD candidate from the University of Silesia, and I would like to show you a very simple but most probably a new approach for measuring similarity between 2 geological surfaces. So suppose you have 2 geological surfaces, this is the first one and this is the second one, and you want to answer 2 questions. How much these 2 surfaces are similar or dissimilar, and where they are similar or dissimilar. So the approach is, the idea behind this approach is that we measure the angle between these two surfaces, but we measure it locally. So we assign, we measure the angle between two adequate triangles and assign the result to the geometrical center of this triangle. And then it is very easy to plot this spatial distribution of this similarity, and the application may be detecting some fault zones like here, and addressing the second question, how much they are dissimilar, we can plot some distributions and obtain numerical characteristics of this distribution, so the mean value, median, and standard deviation, for example. Okay. Thank you for your attention.
Next presentation, Aleksandra Michalska-Grzonkowska.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sorry that I don't have the presentation like this, but with my colleagues from University Clinical Center of Gdańsk, I would like to invite you to the poster number 7. If you are curious where the world is heading in the face of the cardiovascular diseases, you should see our poster and check your own risk factors. Thank you.
Agnieszka Netzel.
So welcome everyone, my name is Agnieszka Netzel, and today I want to show you what we can do if antibiotics that are usually used to treat bacterial infections may be dangerous. Infections with enterohemorrhagic Escherichia coli is very dangerous. It can cause hemolytic uremic syndrome. We cannot use antibiotics because antibiotics can escalate the disease symptoms. And we propose bacteriophages as a new hope to fight with this bacteria. For more information, please come to my poster number 37. Thank you very much.
Karolina Pierzynowska.
Hello, my name is Karolina Pierzynowska and I am a PhD student at the University of Gdańsk. My PhD thesis focused on genistein, which is compound from soybeans. Genistein has many biological activities and can stimulate a lot of cellular pathways. Stimulation of these pathways can be a good therapeutical strategies in treatment of mucopolysaccharidosis, Parkinson's disease, cystic fibrosis, and Huntington disease. The last 2 years, I work on adding to this list one more disease. It is Alzheimer's disease. If you are interested in action of genistein in Alzheimer's disease, I invite you to my poster number 19. Thank you.
Małgorzata Pyrcha.
Hello, my name is Małgorzata Pyrcha. I'm from University of Gdańsk. The title of my poster is The Saxiclaus species of the lichen genus Pertusare in Poland. The aim of my research was revision specimens from Polish herbaria. All samples were examined for morphological, anatomical and chemical characters. During my research I confirmed 8 species, and for more information I invite you to my posters.
Next speaker, Agata Rogowska.
Hello, my name is Agata Rogowska. I'm from Department of Plant Biochemistry at University of Warsaw, and together with Dr. Anna Szakiel, Cezary Pączkowski and Marek Długosz, we investigate the influence of biotic and abiotic stress factors on production of triterpenoids in hairy roots of marigold, Calendula officinalis. And we use 2 types of stress factors, biotic ones as yasmonic acid, salicylic acid, and hitozan, and abiotic stress factors like heavy metals. In this case, it was cadmium and silver, and UV radiation. So if you're interested in it, I'm inviting you to my poster number 32 to get more information. Thank you.
Jan Ruciński.
Hello everybody, my name is Jan Ruciński. I am from the Department of Animal and Human Physiology, Faculty of Biology, University of Gdańsk, and I would like to warmly invite you to my poster about the influence of specific prebiotics, galactoligosaccharides, on social behavior in rats, differing in the type of stress response. In our research, we found that electrical stimulation of the amygdala, the part of brain that is responsible for such emotions like stress, anxiety, and aggression, indicated significant changes in behavior, social behavior in rats, expressed by the index of sociability. For more information, please contact with me during a poster presentation. Thank you.
Dorota Sędkowska.
Good afternoon. My name is Dorota Sędkowska and I work at University of Warsaw, and I'm glad that I'm here and I can tell you something more about the transition of non-pathogenic bacterial strains into emerging pathogens. Bacteria of the genus Paracoccus are classified into over 50 species. Interestingly, the only one species, the Paracoccusiae, is connected with the opportunistic human infections. It is suggested that it's the result of the acquisition of extra chromosomal DNA from another pathogenic strains. We analyzed 7 different strains of Paracoccusiae, and they all had a lot of extra chromosomal replicons, and we assume that the pathogenicity of Paracoccusiae may be the result of a horizontal gene transfer which plays a key role in dissemination of exogenous DNA among bacteria. And if you are interested in the topic of my poster, come there and visit my poster. The number of the table is 1. Thanks.
Next presentation, Iwona Skorowska.
Hello everyone. Do you know that scanning electron microscope have been used over 80 years in science? In our poster, we are focused on the utility of it in botanical research, and our object is Goodyear represents Polish species of Orchidaceae. Except discovering beautiful microstructure, we are able to using this kind of data during compression of species or in taxonomic science, for instance, preparing classification systems. These structures are not noticeable for naked human eye, but may be very important for pollinators. Like the proverb said, the devil is in the details. For me and my colleague Artur Eichmann, would like to invite you to acquainting with the results on poster number 12, and for further questions we will be happy to answer.
Jurand Sobiecki.
I'm fine with that, Mike. Well, so the... I have to? Okay, so the title of the conference is Where the World is Heading, and
I do have few theories about that, but right now I need to be more specific and tell you where we're heading with our overusage of antibiotics. And well, it's not really great unless you want to die from infectious disease. We are 90 years, it's been 90 years since Sir Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, and it seems like we have full cycle, and right now we once again have to be scared of dying of simple bacteria. And so we need more drugs, and that's what our team does. We are looking for new drugs, and from cave, not this kind of drug, the drug that will treat bacteria infections. So we found bacteria in caves in Tatra National Park, and we trying to isolate the thing that's killing some of the most common pathogens, and we hope we will find new antibiotics, generally something that will kill bacteria. So if you have any other questions, I promise that I spare any boring details because it's an interdisciplinary conference, so I promise no matter what your field, you will understand what this poster is about. It's number 33 right there, so thank you.
Next speaker, Symena Stachurska. Okay, next one, Michał Styczyński.
Hello, my name is Michał Styczyński. I want to introduce you into my poster about bioremediation and bioaugmentation of contaminated soils. The poster is about Antarctic bacterial strains. I checked about 400 bacterial strains to search active metabolites like surfactants and siderophores. Surfactants are surface active agents which can mobilize contamination from soils, and siderophores are small peptides which can bind iron and heavy metals. If you want to see more details, you can check it on my poster on 31 table.
Karolina Szewc.
Okay, so my name is Karolina Szewc and I'm a PhD student at the University of Gdańsk. Today I present a poster entitled Plastic Debris as a source of 4-tertolphenol and 4-nonylphenol for seabirds. So to sum up our research, pH has a great impact on octylphenol and nonylphenol leaching from plastic, and alkalinization of the environment. For example, alkalescent feed in the stomach or seawater mobilizes these compounds from plastic. And although concentrations of OP and NP leached from plastic debris are relatively low to concentrations introduced with seabirds' natural diet, exposition to this constant exposition to small doses of these compounds may be dangerous, and particularly if the digestive tract of this seabird become blocked. So if you're interested in plastic pollution or endocrine disrupting compounds, I invite you to poster number 28. Thank you.
Karolina Wilkowska.
Hello, my name is Karolina Wilkowska and I'm from the Department of Microbiology, University of Gdańsk.
My work is about restriction modification systems, which are the most common mechanism of the bacterial defense against incoming DNA such as viruses. And they consist of two proteins. First one is the endonuclease, which cut DNA, and the second one is methyltransferase, which protect DNA from being cut. And that is basic information for you. If you want more, if you want to know more, you can find me by the poster at number 45. Thank you for your attention.
Next presentation, Natalia Wiśniewska. Kinga Wiśniewska.
Hello, my name is Kinga Wiśniewska from Institute of Oceanography, and the title of my poster is the use of computer software R to analyze the variability of PM2.5 in Polish coastal zone. So I would like to introduce you to the air quality in the Tri-City. Therefore, to depict the variability, I used programming language R, which is barely known. However, it could be useful for all of you as a researcher. So, because of that, I would like to invite you to the poster number 10. Thank you.
Next speaker, Kasper Zieliński. So, Anna Żywicka. Michalina Chylińska.
So hello, my name is Michalina Chylińska, and the subject of my study is phenotypic and genotypic methods in the identification of select members of Enterobacteriaceae. Most of the species in bacteria in this family are human and animal symbiotes, representing a good microflora, but some of them are obligate pathogens responsible for enteric infection, and with long-term antibiotic therapy can lead to opportunistic infection. That's why a correct identification is extremely important for treatment of infection. The purpose of the study was identification of 12 different bacteria from the Enterobacteriaceae family with the genotypic and phenotypic methods. So for more information, results, and something about methods, I invite you to poster number 20. Thank you.
And the last one presentation, Michał Małszycki.
Hello everybody, sorry that I don't have any graphics, but you will see my poster soon. My poster is about my toy project carried out in Jagiellonian University. It's about how diet influences sex life of tribolium beetles, so if you want to see it, just find me in my poster.
Thank you for your presentation and stay within the time. So now it's time for lunch, so enjoy your meal and see you on the next session.
Okay. Just one piece of information. White bread is vegetarian. I think it's a little bit mixed up, so if you want vegetarian, think for the white bread, okay? And please come back. Hello. I am going to stand between you and your food just for 5 minutes, but I'm going to talk about money, so maybe you will be interested.
So I'm Rohan Soman and I'm the chair of the Marie Curie Alumni Association, and I'm going to tell you some facts and some things that might be interested in pursuing your PhD or your postdoc in later part of your career, let's say. Statistically, Poland ranks 5th in the newly joined EU members in number of Marie Curie fellowships that are granted and that come here, which is quite disturbing a number because we are below Czech Republic. And I'm saying we because I think I'm Polish now. I've been here for more than 5 years. So that's statistic. It's quite staggering, and I was surprised when I found it out because I came across quite a few Polish people who have been Marie Curie fellows, but they go abroad for it. There are not so many Marie Curie fellows which are coming into Poland, and there is a distinct lack of information, and that's why I took this opportunity offered by Timon to encourage you to apply for the same. I'll quickly go through the schemes that will be of interest to you. If you are not aware, Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions are tailored on 3 cornerstones, let's say. It's about improving your career through mobility and through training. So there is a need for mobility, so you need to move countries. For instance, I came here originally I'm from India, but I was living in Cyprus. I moved here for my PhD at the Institute of Fluid Flow Machinery. And it's also about interdisciplinarity and training, because the training is focused not only on your technical side, but there is also intellectual property rights training. It can be research integrity training, statistical training. It can be, you name it, and there is opportunity for it. So, and it's quite a good bit of business. It's quite encouraging salaries as well. Just for a fact, even like usual, there is a misconception, I would say, or the idea is that if you are working in academia, your salaries tend to be lower than when you are working in business or in the industrial side. Even in countries like UK, which have much higher salary ranges, if you are a Marie Curie fellow and take up a job after your PhD in the industry, you are expected to take at least a 30% salary drop. So you can imagine how much the Marie Curie salaries pay. So it is definitely attractive, and I will encourage you to apply for the same. There are primarily 5 projects, 5 ways that you can get funded. 4 of them are more relevant to you, I would say, depending on the stage of your career, but I will go through just the ones that I think are more applicable to you all. This is the individual fellowship. So this is for a postdoc. So you apply with a host institution from the country that you are not residing in. So for instance, if you are in Poland, you can find a partner in any part of Europe. You can even find a partner outside of Europe, but then there is a mandatory 1-year period that you have to spend in Poland or wherever you are applying from. So this is to encourage intersectoral as well as international mobility, and it is targeted to our postdocs. Up to 3 or 4 years ago, having an individual fellowship was like a ticket for getting a tenure track position. Not anymore. Now the stakes have gone up. Now if you have an ERC, you will get a tenure track position. But individual fellowships are very competitive, and I would encourage you to look up that. The success rate is typically around 8%, which is quite low, but the benefits on the other side are amazing. This is RISE, which is more general for everybody, because they are for more short-term transfers for people, and you don't necessarily need to be a scientist in order to benefit from this. Even the accountancy staff or the administrative staff can go to a intersectoral or international partner and learn some of the practices that they do. And so wider array, you don't need a PhD for this, so it is something that you might, or your institute might be interested in. Co-fund projects is not directly for you, but something that you might consider for while looking for your next postdoctoral or PhD position. These are projects that are applied by national funding bodies, or some, like NCN has got a co-fund project called Polonaise. It was initiated, the first stage was to attract Polish researchers back into Poland. So you won't be eligible for Polonaise because you don't fulfill if you are living in Poland, that is, because you don't fulfill the mobility. But there are similar programs for other countries. and they tend to be slightly less competitive with success rate around 22-24%. So that might be a better opportunity. And you might be aware that tomorrow there is this Sopot Day of Science for the popularization of science. Similar events are organized by the EU all over Europe in 30 countries or in more than 300 cities, where you can invite the general public into your institute and make them aware of what kind of research you do for general awareness and outreach activity. And you can apply to the EU for that kind of funding as well. As I said, I am from the Marie Curie Alumni Association in order to generate awareness about the Marie Curie actions in general. But one of the cornerstones of the Marie Curie, Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions was career and training. So the EU decided to start the Marie Curie Alumni Association to continue this training even after you have finished your fellowship. So it's a group or association that is funded by the EU to keep the fellows together and network and allow interdisciplinary trainings, as well as access to some funds, networking opportunities, being brand ambassadors, helping incoming fellows into Poland. You might be aware that the bureaucracy in Poland is quite difficult to manage, so especially for incoming people. There are also opportunities for training, outreach activities. So if you have been a Marie Curie fellow before or know your supervisor or anybody who has, feel free to join us. We have a stand outside. Thank you. Thank you for your time.